China, currently ranked third among the most powerful armies in the world, harbors the ambition to dethrone the United States, its main competitor. To achieve this goal, Beijing, since its emergence as a world power, has been constantly strengthening its military armament, an approach that raises many debates and concerns about its true intentions. This military rise is closely linked to its centuries-old history and its current aspirations on the international scene. That is why we propose in this video to explore closely China's military and nuclear arsenal, its military objectives, and its growing diplomatic influence. Let's go. History of China. China has become a major world power through strategic economic and political reforms. In the middle of the 20th century, Beijing was an isolated and economically weak country. In 1949, the Communist Party takes power in China, in the middle of the Cold War, and the country is mainly supported by the USSR. At that time, the Middle Kingdom was very poor. Diplomatic relations were poor, and commercial partners non-existent. Two major events have marked the history of the country: the Great Leap Forward and the Great Cultural Revolution, both led by Mao Zedong. However, these policies have weakened the country's economy and led China to the brink of civil war. Mao's death in 1976 changed the situation. Deng Xiaoping took power and implemented a series of economic and social reforms. The political system has changed from a totalitarian regime to an authoritarian regime led by a single party, the Chinese Communist Party. This political regime has allowed economic development and an international rise in power, although the government is often criticized for its excesses in terms of respect for human rights and information control. The new policies have allowed the economy to liberalize, and Beijing has opened up to the world, managing to take advantage of the acceleration of economic globalization and its accession to the World Trade Organization in 2001, Economy of China. Thus, from the late 1970s to the mid-2010s, China made its economic development an absolute priority. In just 40 years, Beijing has achieved a spectacular ascent, becoming the factory of the world and the first market on the planet in many sectors. However, its economy has been brutally curtailed by the coronavirus crisis. Since then, the Chinese economic recovery seems to be running out of steam. Moreover, for the first time in 2022, the country had posted growth of less than 3%. It had never been this low since 1979, except for the year of the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is therefore clear that China is struggling to regain its momentum. What about its military and nuclear arsenal? China aims to become the world's leading military power by 2049, the anniversary of the centenary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. To achieve this goal, the Middle Kingdom began a modernization of all its military branches: air, land, sea, and cyber. With the largest available manpower and the largest naval fleet, consisting of 370 ships, China is constantly strengthening its military capabilities. In 2022, the Chinese Navy admitted 3 Type 055 cruisers, 3 modified Type 052D anti-aircraft destroyers, a Type 075 helicopter carrier, and 3 Type 039B UN-class submarines into service. The Chinese Navy also operates 6 Type 094 nuclear launcher submarines and 6 Type 093 nuclear attack submarines of the Shang class, and as many Type 093A Chang'e. Land and air capabilities have also been strengthened, with a Chinese army with 915,000 active-duty soldiers and 5,800 tanks, the most famous of which is the Type 99. The Chinese Air Force has more than 2,800 aircraft, of which about 2,500 are used in combat, with the J-20 as the most advanced stealth combat aircraft. China is also the second largest arms manufacturer in the world and the 5th largest arms exporting country, although it is not a signatory to the Arms Trade Treaty adopted in 2013 by the UN. On the nuclear side, the Chinese nuclear arsenal began to really worry the United States at the end of 2023, with more than 500 operational nuclear warheads in May 2023 and forecasts of reaching 1,000 by 2030 and 1,500 for 2035. Beijing also plans to complete the construction of intercontinental ballistic missile firing facilities with more than 300 silos containing DF-41 and DF-31AG missiles equipped with nuclear warheads. Washington's concern about China's military arsenal and nuclear threat. China has made impressive progress in the development of its military and nuclear arsenal, which worries the United States. However, it is not so much the number of missiles or nuclear warheads that China possesses that concerns Washington, but rather the problems of corruption within the Chinese army and the underground network set up by Beijing to transport its weapons. Recent corruption scandals have called into question the effectiveness of the missile force and the professionalism of the Chinese military forces. In addition, Chinese troops have not been field tested for decades, and neither has their equipment. The underground network built by China extends over 5,000 kilometers and has a depth of 1,000 meters. It allows China to move its nuclear arsenal to different strategic points in the country while remaining protected from the surveillance of American spy satellites. The United States fears that this network will make the location of Chinese nuclear weapons almost impossible and will allow the Chinese state to respond to a nuclear attack on its soil, even if its highest command centers were destroyed. China also has a new nuclear-capable orbital missile enclosing a hypersonic glider that was successfully tested in 2021. This type of hypersonic weapon flies much closer to the Earth than traditional intercontinental missiles, which makes them more difficult to detect by radars. China also has 2 formidable aircraft carriers and a third 100% Chinese aircraft carrier equipped with electromagnetic catapults to make stealth fighters and combat drones take off faster. Fujian will also be able to transport a greater number of fuel and ammunition and launch drones capable of performing long-endurance flights and providing valuable intelligence to ground troops or sailors. In short, China is becoming a leading military power, which worries the United States. What are China's ambitions? China is seeking to compete with the United States in several areas, and is strengthening its geopolitical influence by expanding its alliances and investing in infrastructure projects abroad. The development of its military arsenal is a key element of this strategy. Tensions between the two countries are rising, with accusations of intimidation by China in Asia-Pacific airspace and joint military exercises with Russia in the Arctic. Although the two countries have resumed dialogue, Washington deplores the lack of direct communication between the respective military hierarchies. China is looking to Africa to create new alliances and expand its influence. Partnership between China and Africa. In 2013, China unveiled its The Belt and the Road project aimed at strengthening connectivity and economic cooperation between the nation and other countries. China has thus become an important partner on the African continent in 3 stages: by becoming the main player in trade, by lending money, and by investing in infrastructure. Chinese companies carry out the constructions, and sometimes even workers are sent to the site. Once the infrastructure is completed, China is repaid with interest. If the country is not able to reimburse in full, the reimbursement can be in the form of raw materials such as oil or minerals, which are essential for the proper functioning of Chinese companies. For example, to ensure the production of electric car batteries, China needs cobalt. It now has access to it thanks to an agreement with the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is the world's largest producer. African nations also have the opportunity to finance their infrastructure projects thanks to China. The latter can take control of a railway that it has financed as long as the country concerned brings it enough money to repay the loan. It can last for several years or even decades. Control of strategic ports. The case of Sri Lanka and Pakistan. China took control of the Hambantota port in Sri Lanka in 2015. After the country was unable to repay Chinese loans used for its construction, China now holds the rights to the port for the next 99 years. A similar situation has occurred in Pakistan with the port of Gwadar, which includes high-end residential complexes, shopping malls, and sports facilities mainly aimed at the Chinese who manage the port. This acquisition allows Beijing to strengthen its relations with Pakistan, which has India as its common enemy, and to have access to the Indian Ocean. China has acquired several ports around the world, which allows it to pursue a policy of expanding its navy. NATO chief James Stoltenberg said that China is getting closer to us. referring to its growing presence in Africa, the Arctic, and its control over infrastructure. Conflict between China, Taiwan, and India. China has rapidly developed its nuclear and military arsenal due to the pressure it exerts on Taiwan. Indeed, China considers that the island is an integral part of its territory. In 1949, when the Chinese nationalists lost the Civil War, Taiwan became an independent country, but the Middle Kingdom does not tolerate this and seeks to reunify the country. However, it is not only for historical reasons that China wants to control Taiwan, but also because the island occupies a strategic position in the East China Sea. Controlling Taiwan would allow China to strengthen its position in the region and give it better access to the Pacific Ocean. To acquire Taiwan, China must dissuade the United States from intervening, which requires rapid military development. In 2023, it was revealed that according to the Center for a New American Security, the United States would be unable to come to Taiwan's aid in the event of a war with China. Indeed, the U.S. Navy would be unable to supply Taiwan with military equipment, because Beijing would have the enormous advantage of numbers and logistics. Tensions between China and the Philippines have also emerged as Beijing claims sovereignty over almost the entire South China Sea, which was challenged by an international court decision in 2016. Chinese and Filipino ship collisions have become commonplace, as have provocations. Tensions have emerged in recent years between China and India due to territorial disputes in the Himalayas. Indeed, Beijing and New Delhi are vying for control of the Aksai Chin, located at an average altitude of 4,200 meters, and experiencing negative temperatures almost all year round. This border is located near Tibet, which has been living under Chinese domination since China sent an armed force there in 1950 to regain control of this independent territory since 1912. Cooperation between China and Russia. China and Russia have strengthened their military cooperation in recent years, showing themselves to be particularly close. In 2023, Beijing and Moscow announced that their military technical cooperation would be taken to a higher level. The officer academies and the different branches of command of the two armies will work more closely together to improve communication and conduct more effective joint operations. Other services, such as the strategic missile forces, could also engage in these exchanges. Russia is helping China develop an early warning system, which is crucial for defense. Military cooperation between Russia and China has always been discreet, but secrecy has increased with the confrontation with the United States. The Russian media have identified only one defense contract with China, worth about 60 million euros, to develop specialized software. The participation of Russian companies in the development of Chinese ballistic missile warning systems shows a high level of confidence. This raises the question of a possible integration of Russian and Chinese anti-missile systems. Russian stations could provide China with warning data, and vice versa, creating a global missile defense network. However, neither China nor Russia have confirmed this intention. Military and technological rivalry between China and the United States. In recent decades, Beijing has shown its ambition to impose itself technologically, influencing its military arsenal and its economic power. Chinese technological advances are causing concern in the United States and Europe, threatening their economic well-being and the world order. China is a world leader in 37 technological fields, such as electric batteries, 5G, and synthetic biology, thanks to Huawei, Alibaba, and Tencent. To stimulate its domestic technology industry and limit economic ties with China, the United States has implemented the Made in China 2025 plan. Today, China is the world's largest exporter of high-tech products, which could make many countries dependent on Beijing. China is also looking to dominate part of the supply chain in areas such as lithium. To do this, it is building the largest hole in its history to access raw materials. China has invested heavily in wind farms and is moving away from coal. It is a leader in IT products, new energies, and advanced railways. However, the United States dominates in emerging technologies and artificial intelligence. Experts believe that China needs to increase its freedom and openness in order to become a complete technological leader. Beijing's ambitions are shaping the geopolitical landscape, creating increasing tensions with the United States and its allies.